Well, these days the new assaults on the senses are aimed right up your nose. This indeed is the era and the age of synthetic smells, and Leicester has been the story.
Ever pined for that good old smell of baking bread or a whiff of wood smoke from a campfire? Well, now you can smell more or less what you like, when you like. It's all part of a new line in nostalgia, and it's all directed at your nose. A firm in Lytham St Anne's, with a nose for a good business deal, is doing a roaring trade in synthetic smells. If you can't afford a Rolls Royce, you can at least pretend, with a device that makes your car seats smell of leather. And there have been stranger requests. There was the dank and musty scent they made to get the right atmosphere at the Haunted Hotel at Blackpool's Pleasure Beach.
Welcome to Uncle Jeffrey's Haunted Hotel, you ghouls.
But the strangest order of all came from Lord Montague. He'd built an 18th century museum in the New Forest, and he wanted to make it really realistic. So he asked the firm to create the smell of, would you believe, poverty.
Well, this is a difficult one because everyone has different interpretations of poverty, of course, and the only way that we felt that poverty was created was a dry, musty smell that perhaps you find in the older houses when there wasn't central heating and the ventilation that we have now. And we did this by trial and error until we found that we had got an atmosphere that we felt was poverty as it used to be in the old days.
Well, how do you know when you've got the right smell?
Well, you have to have a long memory, or by trial and error, and get other people's opinion and let them smell the various components until we hit on the one that is everyone's interpretation as they remember baking bread or wood smoke as it used to be.
Isn't this rather false? I mean, aren't we going to be living in a kind of synthetic world if we're surrounded by synthetic smells?
Yes, that's the point. But again, we feel that people are very conscious about what they eat, but they don't bother too much about what they inhale. So consequently, we get stale air with regards to tobacco smoke, cooking smells, etc. It is far better to replace or to get rid of those smells and replace it with something that is fresh.
But they do draw the line at some things. They were asked to create the smell of burning flesh for the House of Horrors. They turned up their noses at that one. But they did take an order from an Arab millionaire who wanted the scent of the desert at night. This is it, a kind of essence of camel. Still, no accounting for taste. Or should that be smell?
And Lester there, I think if they think they know the smell of poverty, we have to ask what's the smell of wealth? Answers on a postcard.
France has come up with an idea which has helped it sniff out a very lucrative market. But it all happened by accident. Tim Wyatt thus reports.
Behind this door are two men who know the smell of success. You see, they realised that there was a few bob to be made by literally creating a stink. They discovered that there was an untapped market for the manufacture of smells, both pleasant and otherwise. And it all started with a tiny piece of wood. Six or 7 years ago, a homesick Arab approached the company and wondered if they could reproduce the smell of this Iroka wood to remind him of the time when he lived in the desert rather than a modern Arab city. Well, they succeeded, and since then they've expanded their repertoire to dozens of different smells, ranging from medieval street scenes with open sewers to fields full of fresh flowers. And commercially, it's been a breath of fresh air. Ironically, the firm started out not by creating, but by actually getting rid of odious odours, using a special chemical fragrance dispenser. And this has proved to be a very good seller in places like hospitals, public buildings, and even mortuaries. With this in mind, you may well wonder why there's a market for the pungent pong of stewing meat, a wartime air raid shelter, or even decaying blue cheese. The main customers are museums. The Liverpool Maritime Museum needed to faithfully reproduce the squalor and seasickness of 19th century steamships. And the Jorvik exhibition in York wanted the unappetizing aroma of a Viking township knee-deep in rotting chicken bones and other revolting 9th century refuse. Whenever the firm's commissioned to cook up a new nasty niff or even the fruity smell of a pre-war greengrocer's, they call in expert Reg Newman from Chester. He's a perfumier, more used to dealing with fragrances costing up to £2,500 a litre than smells which assault the nostrils.
Well, it's a complete reversal to my normal business, and that's creating pleasant smells. For the museums, most of them are really unpleasant ones, like the rubbish heap at Jorvik, which is really unpleasant. We have pleasant ones like toffee and wash day, smells like that, which are quite pleasant, but in the main, they are definitely unpleasant.
What process is actually involved in manufacturing them then? How do you actually get that right mixture of different substances?
It's a matter of fine knowledge from fragrance of many years, and we have between 2,500 to 3,000 different materials, which consist of natural oils, gums, resins, and aromatic chemicals.
It's funny to think of a cool sea breeze or an 18th century coal fire coming in a bottle. The man behind the idea, Fred Dale, goes to great lengths to sell smells, even down to a sample case of assorted aromas. So when you go out to see a potential customer, how do you demonstrate to them what your product range is?
Yes, well, first of all, we have a look at the settings, the museum settings in particular, and we look for a visual aid, whether it's a coal fire or whether it's a cooking pot burning away. We then have a sample range, and for example, this one, we can recreate the smell of a balmy summer evening with the smell of cut grass, for example.
Oh yeah, it does smell fairly agricultural, I suppose you could say.
But
yeah.
it does add a lot of atmosphere to a museum that can perhaps look a little bit sterile, as they have been, but now we are adding that third dimension. As a contrast to that one, try that.
Oh, that's the worst thing I've smelled in a long time. What is that, in fact? Rubbish?
Well, that is a rubbish, acrid area. People, strangely enough, tend to remember the unpleasant smells more so than the pleasant ones.
So who'd buy that one?
Well, again, don't forget, we are used to areas now that have good drainage and sewerage. Well, in the 18th century and earlier, there was no sewerage system, so that everything was in the streets and people lived in with those sort of smells on a day-to-day basis.
So that would be for a museum or somebody?
Oh, yes, indeed.
The company says all the smells are non-toxic, and the factory Budgie and Cockatoo haven't fallen off their perches because of any ill effects yet. In the meantime, the orders are flooding in, and there are only two which the firm can't or won't produce: the smell of baking bread and that of burning flesh.
What an astonishing item. I wonder if Fred's got an aroma for Studio B right here in Manchester.
Now for a spot of titillation, that of the nostrils. Imagine this scene. You're walking down the high street and the smell of freshly baked bread wafts from the supermarket. Makes you want to rush in and buy a large sliced white and a dozen donuts, doesn't it? Well, if you think someone simply left the oven door open, you'd be wrong. That smell is there for a purpose. Sainsbury's admitted to us this week that they deliberately pipe smells from the bakery department to a point just above the main doors. Why? They said it was designed to titillate the nostrils. More a case of the hard smell, perhaps. Sainsbury's are not alone in using smells to increase profitability. In Japan, psychologists discovered that computer operators make fewer keyboard errors when the smell of citrus fruit hangs in the air. Large corporations in Tokyo now squirt lemon juice through their air conditioning systems. Here, car exporters can use the smell of leather to improve their upholstery, and greetings card manufacturers and book publishers use scent to improve their wares. Subtle odours are now being used in the cinema, the theatre, museums and theme parks. Now, it's obviously a booming business, so who's producing these smells? Well, Fred Dale is the answer. He's our only smell maker, and he's with us tonight. Fred, welcome. Tell me, how on earth do you become a smell maker?
Well, it started out by accident. Normally, my business is getting rid of unpleasant smells, and just by coincidence, we were asked by Lord Montagu in Bewley to create a smell of poverty for his museum in the workers' cottages. This was quite a challenge because, again, the smell of poverty, people have different impressions of what poverty actually smells like.
Yes.
But we got it right.
And what was your job after that? There's a bit more exotic, wasn't it? Something to do with the Arabia, wasn't it?
Yes, we had, the next inquiry came from an Arab, and he lives in his palace and he misses the smell of the campfire in the desert. And they use a special wood. One in particular was Iroka. And this is burnt and gives off a very aromatic smell. So he said, well, look, we would like to have this smell to take us back to the balmy nights in the desert. Can you create the smell so we can use it in our homes? And we did.
How do you go about creating a smell? I mean, what's the process?
Well, we have an aromatist or a chemist who composes smells by various notes. Notes of smells are high notes, middle notes and low notes, and by combining the various notes he comes up with the smell that we want.
And give me an example of the kind of range of stuff that you've done so far. I mentioned theme parks and the theatre and all this.
Well, we go back to the 10th century. We have poetic license there because the smell of a Viking, nobody can argue whether we've got it right or wrong.
Who asked you for the smell of a Viking?
That was in York. They discovered a Viking village and they said, look, we want the smells of the Vikings. But we did do it very accurately because the research, when they discovered the village, they dug down and they discovered the food that the Vikings ate, which were very well preserved. And by sifting through the food, they did know exactly the diet of the Vikings. But then they discovered the toilet was just inside the doorway of their house, the pigs were in the house, the cooking was in the house. So, again, we got a good idea what the smell was going to be like.
Did anybody go and visit this museum after you got this smell? What other things too? You did a film recently, didn't you? Oh no, a stage play.
A stage play, yes. That was Shirley Valentine, which is having a lot of publicity now, with Pauline Collins. And in the second half, she's sitting on a Greek island, and they wanted the smell of a Greek island. We managed to do this. It was a bit of a hit and miss affair, but it worked by putting the smell in the air conditioning. So during the interval, we stored up this smell, switched the air conditioning on, and it wafted right through the auditorium in the second half. So they got the smell of the Greek island.
Do women have a keener sense than men?
Yes, they do.
They do,
definitely.
Do we smell differently, male and female, naturally?
Men have a smell which we know by research gives off the smell of aggression.
Really?
Women do smell sweeter, the body smell. But the interesting thing is that we in this country, or in Europeans, smell more than the Chinese and the Japanese. They don't know what body odour is. We smell quite objectionable to the Chinese and the Japanese.
Can you demonstrate this smell of aggression? I mean, what does it lead to?
Well, again, it's all theory, but again, there is a lot of practice in this where you get what is called the smell from the men that's coming off, which are pheromones, and these are drifted in the air. Now, again, it's been discovered that where men are in a compact area, for example, the German youth, when they were doing the Nazi salute and getting all excited, the smell, again, drifted around and caused aggression and excitement. Then we come on to the railway tubes, for example. People are strap hanging and it's hot, and again, these smells are drifting around.
Football matches too, I think.
Football matches again. A lot of the riots, the men are waving their arms about. Again, this smell does aggravate or cause aggression because it goes right back to the Stone Age.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do now. We've got some of your smells that you've made, right? We've got some here. Now, we've given our panellists, we've given them smells over there. We're going to come back to them in a minute. You come with me now. Let's get them on the audience here. We've got 3 smells. We've got 4 smells here. We've got some beauties. You're going to love this one.
You can go and create a riot.
Go and create a riot, yes, the male aggression thing. So let's come over here then, and let's pick out 3 or 4 volunteers, okay? Now, you make the point that older people have a better range of better at smells than young ones. Well, let's start with a couple of older people here then, and that's the first one, is it?
That's correct.
Now, on your screens now, we're putting up what in fact this smell is, but don't you look down here, right? Because we're going to see if you've got it right. All right, the smell of that. And what do you reckon that is? Don't eat it, smell it.
Butterscotch.
Pardon?
Butterscotch.
Do you smell it? Yeah?
chicken.
Chicken? Ah, well.
We're getting close. It is, in fact, a stock pot.
A stock pot?
Stewing meat
Yeah.
and stock pot.
OK, let's come back here then. Let's try some of the other ones. Right. Now, this is the second one we're doing here. Again, we're going to put on your screens what this smell is. This is a beautiful pong, this is. All right? Let's try a couple of our younger people here. OK? You smell that. Go on, go Google. I can smell that. It's true. What? Peach?
Bleach.
Oh, bleach. Can't you? What is it?
Fish.
That's the word, fish. Fish market, that's exactly right. It's a fish market. And a final one?
Again, an elderly, or no, not a young one, but this is one that perhaps a middle-aged person would remember.
Well, you're not middle-aged, are you,
No.
really? But, you know, of course you're not. But try that. Try that. What is that? Smell that. Lemon. Lemon?
No.
No?
No.
What? You'd say lemon, would you? In fact, it's called wash day.
It's the smell of the starch and the soap powder. Now it rings a bell,
Now,
and you know what it is.
I'm going to leave you with a smell here. It's going to settle over you, right? All right? And I'll just ask you when I get over there what that is. OK, come on back here. All right. Quickly sniff yours, lads and lasses. Now, what do you think it is? Fire? Well, you're right. In fact, it's
an old steam train or a coal.
An old
coal
steam
fired
train. Yeah, there you are. An old steam. Right. Okay. Back to the panel, Mr. Rushton. What do you think yours is?
I just wondered if the reason we haven't had World War III is because of underarm deodorants. I mean, sod the ozone layer, let's keep whacking it on. Use that ozone friendly. And no more aggression in the world.
Ozone friendly.
This is a Hitler Youth.
What is it?
I've duff nostrils, I can't tell at all.
Okay,
It's like, yeah, it's sort of salty and tangy.
It's salty and tangy. It's a Stars dressing room. Francis Edmonds.
Well, this is very vaguely Proustian, actually. This reminds me when my husband used to play cricket. He used to open the boot of his car after about 3 weeks and used to have plastic bags full of rancid jockstraps and sweaty crickets. And loving submissive wife that I am, I used to wash them for him. It's either that or Stilton cheese.
You're dead right. Exactly so. It's
Yeah.
blue cheese. And quickly, Simon Fanshawe.
Viking Village, I think.
In fact, it's a dentist's waiting room, a dentist's chair, right? But thank you very much indeed. That was fascinating. Thank you very much. Now, I wonder if Fred Dale could create a royal smell, a perfume that captured the essential essence of monarchy, the very whiff of Windsor, so to speak.
Retsina, smouldering kebabs. Well, there's one man who claims he's actually got it all into this. He actually makes a living from bottling smells. So Fred Talbot followed his nose and sniffed him out.
The winds of March that make my heart a dancer, a telephone that rings, but who's to answer? Oh, how the ghost of you clings, these foolish things remind me of you.
It's a real natural smell, but could you believe that anyone could spend their life trying to create smells like sweaty socks? I found somebody who does. Meet Fred. What kind of smells can you actually create?
Virtually any smell, within reason, of course, but we get asked for mostly unusual smells and unpleasant smells. For example, we were asked to create the smell of the Viking village.
So when people go to Jorvik and smell things like the Viking privy, shall we say, they are smelling a creation of yours?
They are indeed, yes.
I'm sure you don't just create awful smells. Can you produce nice smells as well?
Yes, we can. In fact, some of the nicest smells are nostalgic. A good example was the Shirley Valentine show in London, the stage show. We had to create the smell of a Greek island where she is sitting on the beach. And we managed to do this into the theatre, and people were transported right back to a Greek island. So that was very pleasant.
Ooh, that's disgusting. What does this smell of? What does it smell of then? Oh, it smells like my feet in the morning. Ah, you're right, yes, socks, wonderful. Right, now we'll try something else on this chap here. We've got a rather nice one now. Does this remind you of anything? From your childhood, maybe?
Spicy, no.
Spicy, carbolic soap.
Oh, dear.
Right, I'll just reach down here, get some nicer ones down here. Oh, this is a nice one. Now, hello, what's your name?
Debbie.
Right, Debbie, you have a little sniff and you tell me what that reminds you of. Is that a nice smell?
It's like, I don't know, like you wash the floor with or something.
A fish market?
No?
Not a fish market?
No.
Right, well, oh, this is a nice one. Now, think of summer. Think of summer. No, come on. Now, what does that remind you of?
Grass.
Yes, cut grass. Cut grass. They're quite remarkable. This is actually the one that smells rather nice. So that's it from the smells. I'll hand you back to Richard.
Yeah, I'll ignore the sort of the connotations there. Listen, Charles, you've got
Greek Island here.
What does it smell like?
It's, I mean, as far as I can tell, it's eucalyptus oil.
That's what
I mean, it's what we put on the tiniest pillows when they got a nasty cold.
But it depends on where you are in the Greek island. Are you in the toilets? I mean, you know, are you in a restaurant?
No, we're somewhere in a eucalyptus grove.
Ridiculous.
Welcome back to Daytime Live on this murky Monday. I think it's clearing up in some places, but it's been pretty murky morning. Somebody's obviously planning to do their washing, though. We've all got
It's nothing to do with wash day whatsoever, Sue, these.
Really?
No, it is to do with the smell of wash day. In this little bottle, would you believe, here, is wash day.
Oh, yes.
OK, and we'll be talking to a man later who literally makes a living out of making a stink about things.
Should go down a bomb.
Well, everyone in our studio today, including our guests from Wales, have been issued with a clothes peg as a precaution against our next guest. It's nothing personal, just that Fred Dale here is an expert at making bad smells, which I hasten to add, he does keep in small bottles. Welcome to Daytime Live, Fred. How did all this kicking up a stink begin with you, then?
It was really purely by accident. My main theme in life is to get rid of smells in all sorts of hospitals, nursing homes, etc. And then we were asked if we could create a smell that we were trying to get rid of, which incidentally was poverty of all things. When Lord Montagu asked us for the smell of poverty, I mean, it was quite a challenge. But yes, it was the start of what has become now quite an interesting and a fascinating business.
So you're an air conditioning man, really?
That's right.
And so you're putting the smells back again now?
That's right. Those that I got rid of yesterday, I'm trying to sell
If only you
today.
could have bottled them up at
That's
the time,
right.
yeah. What kind of uses, then, have these little bottles of smells got?
Well, I think we had the third dimension, particularly in museums, where we have fantastic sound effects and lighting effects, but that third sense, the smell, really brings it to life. And of course, a lot of museums, we're talking about the 18th century, when smells were pretty diabolical.
Indeed. Well, I don't know, but I'm sure they were.
Well, I wasn't around at the time, but I assume it was. But nostalgia, too, is an important part of life. When we go back to 30, 40, 50 years ago, there were a lot more smells about then than there are today. We live virtually in a very sterile condition.
Just before I sample some of these things, I mean, smelly vision has often been talked about, and I know we've had one or two of these things that, you know, where you scratch the paper and smell and then watch the screen at the same time.
Yes.
But I mean, it would add a kind of whole new image to creatures great and small and that kind of thing, wouldn't it, really?
It would indeed, yes. The only problem is, it's all right putting the smell in, it's removing the smell afterwards. That is the problem.
Yeah.
We did it...
your smell must be affecting your microphone, actually, because you've just told me you've got a problem with your microphone.
It's probably wilting. No, we did it with Shirley Valentine.
Yeah.
When that first opened in London at the stage show, we introduced the smell of a Greek island into the auditorium in the second half, and that worked extremely well.
By sheer coincidence, I saw that on Friday night, but the smells have been taken out of it now, haven't
That's
they?
right, yes.
Let's have a sample. You mentioned nostalgia. Shall we start with one or two of the nostalgia smells there?
Well,
let's travel. Let's start with travel. Yeah, you mentioned a Greek island.
Well, there we go. That is, if you can imagine, a hot Greek island with the smell of the herbs and the dried grass.
My chemistry master always used to say you should take
That's
a smell like
quite
this,
right.
waft it in. I can see how that one is, yeah. It's,
In fact, when you're on holiday, the smells that you get accustomed to whilst you're on holiday, you store them away in your memory, and it's amazing how you can recall them.
What else have we got there?
Now, how would you fancy
Smells
a trip?
on television, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Go on.
How would you fancy a trip down Venice on the canals on a hot day? Someone's already been to Venice.
Oh, goodness, that's outrageous.
Well, that is, in fact, how Venice smells on a hot day. Now, in Hollywood, there are certain times of the year...
Yeah.
We'll give you a pleasant one now. There are certain times of the year in Hollywood when the blossom's out, and that is the smell that you would get over Hollywood.
Oh, that's very pleasant, yeah.
That is the orange blossom, and that works.
I've never been to
extremely-
Hollywood, so I don't know what the smell would be there.
But
I certainly
again-
won't be going to Venice anyway, that's for sure.
But the nostalgic ones, because, as I say, most of our business is done in museums, we are asked to do the period of the 18th century. Jack the Ripper was one for Madame Tussauds that we were asked to do. Well, the smells that were there were horses, the droppings, the sewerage. Everybody threw everything out of the window, so we found that quite a challenge.
Well, I tell you, shall we just, everybody's been laughing over here about the smell of Venice and things, so I think it's a very good opportunity to come over here and let one or two people in our audience have a sample of these. You're not getting away with this. Sample one or two of these smells. Now, what have we got there? I'm going to tell you what they are, because it's important, I think, just so that you can get into the feeling of it. What have we got there?
This one is a farmyard. Those of you who've been...
Are you ready for a farmyard, sir? You think?
Yes, I am.
I think
Right, you tell me what you think of that one.
Oh, yes, that's pretty pungent.
How would you describe that one? Can you repeat
True to
it?
life. For a farmyard.
Yeah.
My son-in-law's a farmer, you see.
Is he? So that's it. What? Because we were arguing before about what kind of farm that would be. How would you describe that farm? Would it be a mixed farm? Do you think, or?
I think a mixed, yes.
Right. Okay. That was certainly was fairly accurate. What's this one then? We've
Now,
got.
does anyone enjoy blue cheese? Anyone enjoy blue cheese?
There's a lady here looks as though she can enjoy blue cheese. Do you want to pass me that one up there, Fred? Then I can.
Thank you.
That's it. Now, would you like to have a little? Not the microphone. The.
Yes, Stilton.
That's a Stilton, is it?
Yes.
Would you like just to sample a little of that?
No, I don't like
Cool, that is a powerful one. Get rid of that one immediately. How would you go about getting all of these? I mean, is it like putting together perfumes?
It is actually. Perfume are designed by notes. You have low notes, middle notes, and high notes.
just
And
got a whiff of the other one over there.
by blending them together, you get the perfume or the smell, in our case, that you want. Now, I won't tell you what this one is,
Let's try this one.
and I'll stand back.
Who'd like to sample this one? Anybody? We've got the lady at the back here. No. Sorry again.
Smell the farmyard up
He's
here.
just arrived, is it, the farm?
Yes, just it us.
Now, this one, you like just get fairly close to that one. What is that one, do you think?
Rotten eggs.
What do you
Rotten
think?
eggs we have.
Rotten
I
eggs down here? What do you think that one is? Can you describe it?
Never smelled it.
Never smelled anything like it, the lady says here.
Smell again.
Well, that's very true, Andy. You wouldn't have smelled anything like it because that is the smell of a dragon's breath.
That is a classic. Why on earth did you put together the dragon's breath?
Well, there was a theme park, Camelot, and they had this enormous dragon coming out of the theme park, and they wanted to smell.
Stand anywhere near.
And that was the smell, because people imagine dragons as fire, brimstone, and so that sort of smell gives that reaction.
Have you got any antidotes for these?
Well, not yet. It costs a lot of money to create them, so it's better to leave them floating around a bit. But yeah, there is a deodorant that we can use in our other side of the business when we have very unpleasant smells.
I
we
think
like
you're
to
going
break
to need
them
a lot
down.
of gasping and things going on in the audience here. I think, where do you think all this is going to end? Do you think we ever will end up with things like smell-o-vision or at the cinema having smells coming in?
Not at this stage, but I think what is coming out of this, for example, if we inject lemon or citrus through air conditioning systems into offices, it does keep people alive and alert. So during the day, they're not feeling so fatigued as they would normally. But on the other hand, lavender is very relaxing, so you can use all these different odours to have different reflex with people. But aggression is one of the other things that we are discovering, that the smell, and only from men this happens, that the smell that they give off, it's a pheromone, causes aggression. So in a football match, you get the excitement and the pheromones drifting about, and we do believe quite seriously that this causes aggression.
Well, I'll
just
tell you
in that
one thing.
case.
Just let's hope that no one releases dragon's breath anyway, because it's absolutely killed us off in here today. Tina.
My perfume can't compete with that. It's just reached me from this side of the studio.
Have you had a hell of a week? Do you wish you had a different job? Well, here's Jenny. She may have the solution.
Yes, if you are fed up with your current method of earning a living, don't despair. You're not alone. At this time of the year, as the weather improves, it's a common problem. We commissioned a poll this week from the South Bank Polytechnic. Students there went out asking hundreds of you if you like your job. And the result? Well, more than a quarter of you said you didn't and would like to change. Not surprisingly, really. I mean, who wants to sit in a stuffy old office when the sun's shining? Anyway, I was so saddened by the result of our survey that I thought I'd try to help. So if you're looking for a new career, something a bit different, I've got a couple of unusual ideas for you. It's the right time, 3 o'clock, and it's the right place, Chatham Dockyard Museum. Fred said he'd meet me here and he still hasn't arrived. Apparently, this is Fred's latest masterpiece. It's pretty good, isn't it? Shame about the smell, though. It's a good job I didn't say that to Fred, though. What have you done here, Fred?
I created the smell of the sweaty sailor and also the general atmosphere that is around us.
What's your job?
I create smells. Or I'm known as an authentic smell maker. That is the title.
Backbone of the Navy. It seems that as more and more museums try to bring history to life, Fred's called in to add the finishing ingredient.
We've got, as you see, lighting effects, sound effects, but now we've got the smell of the period, and that really brings it to life.
Fred's turned pong picking into a science. He started out in air conditioning, then got the idea that people might actually want to add the smells instead of taking them away, and now he's got his own business. Although not everyone is thrilled with his unique speciality. What does your missus think?
Sometimes she's not very pleased, particularly if I come home with some of the oils on my hands. It takes at least 2 to 3 days to get it out of the pores. And as you get warm in bed, the smell gets stronger, and the smell of horses and dragons is not very pleasant. But I'm asleep, so I don't know. Right, now this one, I won't tell you what this one is.
Nevertheless, Fred's proud of his work, and one smell in particular he wanted to give the Jenny Barnett nose test.
Oh! Oh, absolutely disgusting! That is disgusting. What is it?
That is a sweaty, pillaging, raping Viking.
Oh, my God!
Now listen, that smell
Yeah.
is not only that. This is the smell. Smell it.
Oh.
Is it? What do you think?
That's church, right?
Church?
Candles.
It's dragon's breath.
Oh,
Church,
sorry.
is saying. Church. Listen, what about this one?
That is toffee.
Good man, that's
Right?
vanilla. Now this
Vanilla
one.
toffee.
This one.
Perfumey, scenty.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Air conditioning.
Stars dressing room.
Stars dressing.
Joan Collins, Stars dressing room. Isn't that wonderful?
You found you had a bit of a kind of a sharp nose for it, didn't you?
Splendid. That's why I'm not staying next to you for too long.
Evening, Jameson tonight. What a welcome.
Nutcases here.
Here's a businessman from St Anne's in Lancashire who can lay on smells to order. Everything from the aroma of dungeons to the Greek islands. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the unique Fred Dale. Fred, the thing I love about you is you started out in extractor fans, didn't you?
That's correct.
That was to remove smells.
That's right.
So how did you get into the business of the opposite and creating smells?
Oh, it was very interesting because normally, as you say, we have to get rid of unpleasant smells, but Lord Montagu, who was setting up a museum at the time, wanted the smell of poverty in his cottages. He asked us if we could do this, and of course we created it.
Wonderful. Are you a chemist yourself?
No, I'm not.
Or a perfumier?
No, I'm not.
So one of your troops does all this, does he?
Yeah, he is an aromatist.
I see, an aromatist.
Yes.
And you can actually produce just about any smell there is chemically.
Yes, except there are one or two which are inorganic. Baking bread we're working on, the natural smell, and also the ground coffee, which, you know, when you open ground coffee, the smell of coffee only lasts a few seconds and then it's gone.
So who are your customers then?
Basically museums and theme parks where we need that third sense. We have the visual, we have the sound effects, but now we can then hit the senses with the smells by the nose.
Yeah, and that gets the customers.
Oh, it does.
Because once upon a time they were going to have smelly in the pictures,
Smell-around.
Smell-a-rama.
I think we got close to that with the Shirley Valentine, Pauline Collins here in the West End, the one-woman show. She wanted the smell of a Greek island. And we managed to do this by putting it into the air conditioning and wafting it into the auditorium.
Well, you've brought some smells with you. Shane's got them in his hand. I wonder, could Shane, as someone who has been there, who knows what it's all about...
What, to smell?
Have you got in your hand the smell of poverty?
The smell of poverty? No, I haven't got that. You've got that, haven't you?
Have you got poverty, Fred?
What
yes,
smell do you use on a roller coaster?
Fear.
Fear,
yeah. I can guess what smell that'd be.
Yes. Is that poverty, Fred?
Yes, that...
Can I have a sniff?
Yeah, sure.
This will bring back memories, Derek, won't it, mate?
Here we go.
The old East End.
Back to Acnewick. Oh, God, that's it. Yes. Oh, my God. Rotting floorboards, stale socks, boiled cabbage.
Spotted dick.
No money, no fags, nothing. That's wonderful, isn't it?
You try that one, Derek, with... That is a coal fire, the old coal fire with the smell of soot.
Fire. You see, he knows my age group. Oh, yes, that's it. It's the chimney. When you stick your nose up the chimney to see if it needs cleaning or whatever, that's what you get.
You haven't got the smell of a radiator, have you?
Yeah. What have you got for Shane? Something young and vibrant.
What have you got I can smell?
The Greek islands. You've been talking about the Greek islands. Have you got the Greek islands there?
Yes, there we go.
That'll be sweaty armpits.
Let me see if I can smell
Not
it.
really.
I'll tell you what this is, ready? Corfu. Comic genius. Is that what the Greek islands? It smells like a kebab.
Oh, well, that would be Greek, wouldn't it?
Well, it is the smell of the herbs.
Greek, isn't it? Kebab, or is that Turkish? Oh, yeah. Right. Let's try the audience. Shane,
Right, I'll tell you, I've got a few in. Okay, then let's see what the audience is like.
Have you got them in the right numbers?
Yeah, of course.
We're going to ask them what they think it is.
Okay, right. Someone have a smell of that, right?
We'll put up on the screen what it really is.
Yeah, you have a smell of this here. Tell me what you think that is. What do you reckon? You don't drink it. What does it smell like?
Can't tell.
Oh, no, see, now, have a smell of that. What do you reckon?
Olives.
Olives? No, don't be a plonker. That's not olives. Olives, actually, you're not far off, because that is, in fact...
Cloves, sorry.
Yeah, actually, that's not bad, because that's a dentist surgeon smell, that one is, OK? OK, let's try this one here now. OK, let me get this bottle top open. Here, have a sniff of that one. See what you reckon that is. Can you pass that along to this lady here? What's that? A bit louder, I can't hear you. What is it?
Smells like a doctor's surgery.
A doctor? Sorry?
Horse poo.
Horse poo? Well, say what you mean, won't you? Horse poo. Actually, you're not far off that, because that's, in fact, stable and horses. Give her a round of applause.
That's right, stable and horses.
I've got another one here. This'll get them, this'll get them. This'll get them. Smell that one. Smell that one. Drink that. What's that smell like?
Awful, but I can't tell what it is.
You can't tell what it is? Oh, no, speak English. OK. What do you reckon that smells like? What do you reckon?
Seaside?
Seaside? No, not far off. Cut grass. Far off. Long way away, really. And the last one here. OK, girls! Yeah, I've got to open this bottle here. Right, hold on a minute, mate. You're going to see if you can get this one, OK? Right, have a whiff of that, ladies. See if you can smell that. I can smell it from here.
Oh!
Have a whiff of that. Have a smell of that. What does that smell like?
Fish.
It's fish. Billingsgate. It's a fish market, that one. Isn't it good, eh? Well done. 2 out of 3.
Well, Fred, you certainly got something there. I said unique.
Yes, indeed.
Is there anybody else in the country who does this?
No, no one at all.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. Fred Dale, the only man in the country who... Oh, look, they're still at it there. Anyway, before you go, Fred, we'll order 2 gallons of fear. 2 gallons of fright fear, absolutely scared, you know what. Thanks for coming with all your wonderful smells. Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Dale from Lancashire.
Hello there, good morning. You're watching Britain's Brightest Start to the day here on GMTV. I'm Eamon Holmes and I'm starving.
And I'm Fiona Armstrong. Now, don't eat those.
No.
Have a sniff of that instead.
You don't understand.
No, have a sniff.
I'm addicted to crisps.
I know, but this can actually save you, Eamon. It can actually save you. You ready? We'll be talking about diets in 10 minutes' time.
No, that turns you off crisps. That actually is supposed to repulse you from potato crisps. It did, you're right.
Made you cough anyway. Welcome back, 11 minutes past 8. Now, if you've ever tried to lose weight, if you're anything like me, you have many, many times, I know that it's jolly hard work.
Anything like you don't have to lose weight. Well, anyway, a diet that takes no effort at all seems like a dream come true, of course, and scientists in America have come up with a diet that doesn't apparently involve exercise or eating lettuce leaves.
A dream diet. And as our Washington correspondent Maxine Mowini discovered, all you have to do is sniff.
These people are guinea pigs. 2,000 of them have come to Chicago from all over the United States to take part in clinical trials of an odor diet. It was developed by Dr. Alan Hirsch at Mercy Hospital. He was working with accident victims who, when they lost their sense of smell, gained weight. He was curious to know what the opposite effect would be.
The reason you feel filled is that your brain interprets the amount of food that's going through your mouth, the amount of food that you've smelled to mean I've smelled it, hence I've eaten it. Therefore, stop eating or you'll overeat.
Working on the theory, he took an odor used in many snack products and put it in an inhaler, which the dieter uses as many times as needed when hunger strikes. What you do is, when you feel hungry, you take a sniff of this inhaler, thereby smelling food rather than eating it. Now that's okay if you like corn-flavoured potato crisps, but to me it is absolutely disgusting. Whether pleasant or not, early tests show it works. The trials are under strict medical supervision. Volunteers must be between 18 and 64, not asthmatic, at least 10 pounds overweight, and most importantly, like the smell of the odour used. The inhaler lasts a month, so volunteers have to return to the hospital for re-evaluation and a new inhaler every 4 weeks. It costs around £15 a time. Most of those here have tried every diet you can mention without success, but they're still keen to try something new.
Well, I tried diet pills, so this is something different. It's going through my nose, so it might be successful, hopefully.
I've tried everything, so I figured why not try this?
The odour is safe, it's made from vegetables, and there are no known side effects. So, is this it? Has the ultimate weight loss method finally been discovered?
Well, we know that dieting doesn't work. We know there's a yo-yo effect, and you lose it and you gain it back. We don't know. It would be wonderful if this helped people to lose it and it sustained off. We just don't know, and that's why we're doing the study.
The trials will continue for 6 months, after which the success rate will be known. Then the possibilities are endless for the introduction of other smells: pizza, hamburgers, French fries. Going out to dinner could take on a whole new meaning.
Gosh, it certainly
That'd
could.
save a lot of money, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Not either works, so it just shows you how desperate people are, doesn't
Exactly,
it?
yeah.
Now, joining us now is Fred Dale. Now, Fred has developed his own odour diet, this time by sniffing a chocolate necklace. And Carol Malone from the Daily Star is here. And Carol, I'm sure if you're like the rest of us, you will have tried many diets. Rosemary Conley, Scarsdale.
Look at me, Eamon, I failed in them all.
We just never tried. I mean, what do you make of this? Do
I would eat that. Have you smelled it? It's beautiful.
That's the chocolate necklace.
It's like Bourneville dark chocolate. It's really. But I'm not. I mean, I hear what you say, Fred, that it could actually put people off. But if you're overweight, it's because you like the taste of chocolate, and you like chewing it and eating it. Part of the joy is having it in your mouth.
Well,
how is that
that's
going to
right.
work?
Well, yes, I think a lot of it is a stress factor as well. People eat chocolate perhaps through boredom or through stress. And we found that the brain has a novel way of cutting off smells after a certain amount of time. And also the addiction to chocolate, of course, as you say, is the taste and also the smell, because the two are so closely related. And we found that if this is worn, say the housewife doing her housework and she's feeling the desire to eat chocolate, by inhaling that, it takes away the desire. The brain sensors will cut off the desire for it.
Would it not have the effect of making you go and buy a bar? You have a smell of that and you go and buy some.
Initially, for the first 2 days, we found that this didn't have any adverse effect. And on the third and fourth day, depending on how severe the craving for chocolate was, we found that the taste became quite unpleasant.
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Well, yes, we found, for an example, a person cooking the meal. By the time she's finished cooking the meal, the desire to eat or a appetite has waned. We also find with unpleasant smells, the brain has this novel effect of cutting off the smell, that you don't smell it at all. And the same applies, as we're saying with the other foodstuffs, that if you take enough of it, it becomes then that you don't smell it at all.
I can imagine, Carol, if you wore this at work for a day, in fact, if you slept in it and wake up to the smell of chocolate around your neck, you might not be so keen to rush out and buy a bar in the morning.
Then you might go and have boiled sweets instead or something.
Well, look, why don't we give it a try? Will you be our guinea pig on this?
Yeah,
Will
sure.
you take this away?
I mean, I can't promise not to eat it in the first hour.
And come back and let us know how you get on.
Fred, how much would one of those cost?
At the moment, they're going to be just over £4, and it will last a long time, depending, again, on the way that it's worn. If it's worn continually, then I would think at least a couple of months' use out of that, because the smell is encapsulated into tiny beads, which do have a long-lasting effect.
Do you do other flavours? Do you do things like roast beef and Yorkshire pudding? Or
Chinese carry-out?
Well, the list could be endless, but no, we don't, because this is especially for the chocoholics, really.
Yeah.
But on a more serious side, I mean, could you get, say, you know, for people who are perhaps addicted to more serious things, say like alcohol, a bag that smelled of drink to put to cure people of drinking?
No, I don't think, quite honestly, that would have the same effect with drink. We have a great success with uplifting people by introducing the smell of lavender. In the same way, if we use a natural lavender, this gives an uplifting effect, and then they calm out, and it's very good for people in stress, again, in stress situations. But lavender has a calming effect, without a doubt.
Well, the other interesting thing is, I mean, Fred, you have to be on a winner here, because when you look at those scenes in America, how all those people queued up, people who are overweight, I mean, they are actually so desperate, they will try anything, they will pay anything.
That's right.
Now, you must know you're on a winner with this, whether it works or not.
Well, yes, but I think our reputation is such that our main line is in smells, and we have to get it right. So the test that we're doing now, we have had excellent results with people who were eating 8 to 12 bars of chocolate a day, large bars, and they've now reduced it down to the odd square occasionally. So to me, that really proves that we are going the right way.
So it's not just a gimmick?
No, certainly not. No, it doesn't, because we don't want to be related to gimmicky things, because obviously people spending a lot of money on chocolate. It's amazing how much expense. Some people are, in fact, spending £8–9 a day on chocolate. It's incredible. I mean, they just eat chocolate without the pleasure. They eat it for the sake of eating it.
But isn't the thing for the most fat people, it isn't just one thing that makes them fat, is it? I mean, I don't know how this might be successful for chocoholics, but it might not be generally for overweight people, because if you are fat, you like lots of things, don't you?
Oh, exactly.
It's not just chocolate. It's crisps and cakes and.
Of course, we're not making that claim, but we have seen a number of chocoholics who are very, very thin and slim, and really you would never realise, but the side effects of chocolate are more severe than just putting on weight.
If it loses me £5 anyway, every little helps, I always reckon. Okay, Fred and Carol, thank you both very much indeed. Are you going to write about this then,
Absolutely,
are you?
yeah.
Oh, good,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to... Carol's our guinea pig
there.
And
she's gonna, why not?
Oh,
why
good,
not?
good. All will be revealed in the Daily Star. And I come...
Chocolate to stave off the old munchies attacking. But you can have too much of a good thing and end up a chocoholic. Forbid it. One Lancashire company reckons it's found a cure with this. It's a rather plain-looking object, but with a very clever centre. Our own little sweetie, Paul Crone, oh dear, has been to investigate.
OK, so I like a bit of chocolate now and again. I can handle it. I sometimes have more than 1 bar a day. I can cope. Britain spent £2.9 billion on chocolates last year. That's the equivalent of every man, woman and child scoffing their way through 120 bars of chocolate, 10 bags of chocolate, £3 of boxed chocolates, 3 cream eggs, 16 mini eggs and half a selection box. We need help.
Help that could come in the shape of this smelly sachet made by a company in St Anne's. The boss, Fred Dale, is no stranger to the world of smells. He's made aromas ranging from World War I trenches at the Imperial War Museum to some dragon's breath for a Lancashire leisure park. His latest niff for our nostrils is chocolate, not real but synthetic.
People eat chocolate because they enjoy it, but it becomes then a habit. They eat chocolate and they don't get the same pleasure because they have to devour it, if you like. But by inhaling the chocolate beforehand, it takes away that craving.
Plastic granules impregnated with the smell of chocolate are put in a pouch. The idea is that by smelling this, you won't need the real thing.
Smelling horrible? Just have a sniff. And what do you think it is?
Chocolate. Hot chocolate.
Brilliant.
Yes.
What is it?
Chocolate.
Very good. It's for a device designed to stop you craving chocolate.
Right.
Will it work?
Yes.
Chocolate.
Yeah, but I would think that would make you want to go and have a bar of chocolate. You know, the smell of it, you think, oh.
It's just craving for when I'm pregnant.
Do you think one of these would stop you?
Oh, yeah. I was sleeping under my pillow.
We did do trials with one lady who was on 8 bars of chocolate a day, and when she contacted us, she said that if she hadn't got the money in her purse, she would go to a bank, cash a cheque to get the money to go and buy a chocolate. Now that is serious.
As for me, let's just say I won't be having any tea tonight.
Well, this to me does what the man in the flat cap said. It smells very heavily of chocolate, makes me want chocolate. What about you, Lucy?
Well, I think it would put me off. I mean, I'm about 8 bars a day as well. What are
You're
you?
joking.
Well, I can eat
I'm a
that.
Sunday
I'm not
afternoon
every
chocolate
day.
man. There's 1 or 2 chocolate biscuits in the cupboard, though.
I can imagine in a crisis trying to open this little bag, though, and get out
If you had
whatever's
no
in
chocolate
there.
in the house.
Yes.
Well, still to come on calendar this Sunday tea time, we introduce Scratch and Sniff Television. Pooh, as we meet a man whose world-class whiffs have made for a successful business. Tonight we've got a TV first. It's Smell-O-Vision. There have been some great inventions this century, the aircraft, the hovercraft, penicillin. But did you know that there's a man in our region who makes a living inventing smells? And no, they're not expensive perfumes. Fred Dale is his name, and these are some of his inventions. I tell you what, if you stick your nose right up to the TV, you can probably smell them. They're absolutely horrible. Will Venters has been to meet Fred.
Here's a man who has the sweet smell of success about him. Odours of all types, including some pretty nasty ones guaranteed to get up people's noses, have helped him make his fortune. Walk into almost any major museum in the country, the Jorvik Centre, Madame Tussauds, and the period pungents you experience are his.
It's very nice, but every job is new, it's exciting, and we get a lot of pleasure from it. Yes, I think it's a wonderful thing. I never dreamt years ago that it would have expanded, and even abroad now.
The Fishing Heritage Centre at Grimsby, the Eden Camp and Jorvik museums are amongst Fred's growing clientele, but he also supplies theatres and shops with smells that tempt the nostrils of customers.
Even children going to school, they're not encouraged to use their sense of smell, perhaps taking them out in the countryside and smelling spring, autumn and winter. And I think it's a sad reflection on our modern environment.
As well as creating smells of coal fires, chocolate and the farm, Fred sometimes gets more unusual requests. The smell of poverty was one, or recently, the smell of Christmas.
Christmas conjures up all sorts of images, and the smell of a Christmas tree, of course, is an obvious one. A real natural sappy pine comes over very well. And of course the smell of a Christmas pudding or a Christmas cake cooking, of course that always reminds people of Christmas. So those are the 2 main ones that we have come up with.
We put some of Fred's odd odours to the test on the streets of Castleford.
Oh, God above. Oh,
Racky ammonia.
Oh, oh, it does.
Oh, it's fish.
Fish, that's right.
Fish.
Fish
Fish.
What do you reckon? Don't look at the label.
God, a buff.
But that's a hard one.
That's a hard one. It's a bit fruity, but it's not nice.
What's the smell of?
Oh, God.
Oh, fish.
Is somebody gonna...
No, it's not cheese.
Oh, no. What is it?
Well, if you went to the Jorvik Museum, this is what you'd smell, because this is what a Viking village would smell of.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not letting Jeff get away with it that easy. Jeff, have a whiff of that. Tell me what you think.
Uncork it. Oh, straight.
Do you know what it is?
No,
It's rubbish.
Is it?
Acrid, yeah.
I was going to say it's such an essence of old socks, something that do wonders for your love life. Let's stopper it up and move on very swiftly.
And smells will be one of the main attractions, as Emily Baker reports.
You've heard of the phrase, smells like a brewery. Well, this should tickle your nasal hairs. Not only will the aroma of hops permeate the air of the new Brewery Wharf Visitor Centre, but so will a number of other, less pleasant odours.
Well, here we have a bottle of the hops, freshly brewed this morning. It's still warm. And to match this, we have to get it accurate. Now, by mixing a combination of natural oils and some synthetic oils, we hope to recreate the smell exactly.
Now, what about this secret potion you're making up?
Well, this is a fun one, actually, but it's very true to life. It's the one that perhaps people will react to, and it's an interesting one, but we'll see the results of it later.
The smells will be an integral part of the new attraction, which is due to open in March this year.
Fred Dale, who's putting together a fine collection, everything from a musty, damp smell, which we'd all try to avoid, to a fresh baked bread smell, which apparently is the most challenging of the smells that he produces.
This is a proud moment, Fred. As you can see, this is the secret formula that you've been making for us. Dung.
Shall we put it to the test?
That's definitely like the real thing.
Yes. Not sure if I like that. Smells a bit like horse dung.
Well, I think that says it all.
But you know, I don't care what they say, this is definitely the best smell for me.
By heck, that's what you do. Smell lovely.
Not to be? That is the question.
Imagine the last 400 years since Shakespeare wrote those lines. Imagine British history reduced to a 5-minute London taxi ride and 8 smells. On television, you're just going to have to take my word. I smelled them myself, including the plague, the fire of London, and Queen Victoria's perfume, the oil of the Industrial Revolution. It's Madame Tussauds' new $16 million Spirit of London exhibit, with the smell of authenticity, thanks to a man named Fred Dale.
Well, yes, the smells of the past are extensive, and it was an interesting challenge, and really, I'd never dreamt that it would have expanded to the way that it has done.
Fred Dale started out getting rid of smells for people. Now he does just the opposite, supplying 132 different odors, most of them bad, to every major historical attraction in Britain. For example,
here we have a wild stag. Stable and horses, perhaps one of the most unpleasant oils in the range, is the fish market. Methane, of course. Oh, try that one. That is a dragon's breath. It is a smell that would be very appropriate, strangely enough, in a First World War trench. There is the smell of urine in there, there's the smell of body odour, there's the smell of death.
The trench experience, complete with the stench of war, is a popular part of the Imperial War Museum in London.
I want you to close your eyes and think back to when you were children.
Fred Dale has his own brand of aromatherapy for the elderly.
Caramel. Caramel. Anybody else?
Caramel.
It's reminiscing, isn't it? Going back in olden days, is this?
How many of you would go back to the good old days?
How about smelling your way back 1,000 years to Jorvik, the Viking village that eventually became the city of York?
The yards behind the houses fairly stink. The pigs root around here. Rubbish is dumped in pits. And the loos are just cesspits, holes in the ground. This old chap's trying to use one.
Smells are so much a part of the Jorvik Viking Center. They even sell scratch and sniff postcards. You can send the smell of this back home to your friends. Remember dragon's breath? There's also burning wood, apple, fish, and stewing meat.
The strongest impression I get is that terrible pigsty.
By the boat, and that fresh air smell, you could feel the change in it.
Sorry, sea breeze wasn't one of the smells. Smell oil syrup comes in liter containers that can cost more than $100 each, but go a long way.
I've been known to spill them on myself, which they hang around for about a week or so. Especially the rubbish one. Right. There we are, so off we go.
Off we go to fill vaporizers on timers. They heat up, the oil evaporates, and voila, essence of pigsty. The Cutty Sark, the last great 19th century tea clipper, now tied up on the Thames near London.
Can you ask them if they can sniff and actually smell the tea?
Est-ce que vous sentez l'odeur du thé? Oui.
Oui? You can smell it, yeah? Yeah, the smell is still on the ship.
Oh, really, after 100 years? A mystery for a trio of intrepid amateur smell detectives, escapees from today's deodorized, shrink-wrapped culture. Fred, you've been found out. Martha Teichner on the Cutty Sark for CBS This Morning.
The way a supermarket is designed on the outside, the way it's laid out on the inside, all will affect us.
If we can put smells related to food, a whole new world is opening up to us.
The role of packaging design in that equation is to persuade gently the customer that perhaps tonight they can treat themselves to a luxury product.
We want, when the customer walks in the front door, that they have a good time when they come food shopping.
For the next 4 weeks, Off Your Trolley takes a trip down the aisles to look at the phenomenon of the supermarket. From the way we shop now to the way we'll shop in the future, we check out the business of the superstores.
Well, our senses. For example, they've realized that smell sells.
They pump fresh bread smells at the front door. I noticed that the other day. And it does work. I mean, you do go in, it's the first smell that hits you because it's such a, oh wow, let's go and buy some fresh bread.
Now's a chance to get rid of some of my samples.
Fred Dale is taking the idea of smells that make your mouth water one step further. He's already selling smells to supermarkets in the hope that after one whiff, we're hooked to buy. I'm finding out how persuasive they can be against the already smelly background of a perfume department.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Gosh, they're terribly potent.
Well, that amount in the bottle would cover 5,000 cubic feet, but we don't cover the whole supermarket. We're only really interested in the entrance where people walk through the smell. That is sufficient, because once they detect that smell as they enter, say the baking bread is a good example in a supermarket, then that's sufficient. We don't have to saturate the area with it.
Toast?
You've got a good nose as well. Yeah, it is. It's our interpretation of bread in a bottle.
Isn't bread meant to be the one that makes you rush out and buy the house and buy the store and do everything?
It is indeed. The supermarkets, of course, are pumping this through the stores now, and it is a very evocative smell. But bread is difficult to reproduce. You can only get that smell when the bread is burning. But the smell of baking bread is unique. There's no other smell like it. We package the goods to make them presentable, and of course, if we give the sense of smell, it's another form of packaging.
Oh, this is nice. This is oranges or...
Imagine a tangerine at Christmas time.
I've got it. It's a tangerine at Christmas time. Yeah, that's good. That could make me fairly sort of rampant, I think. Do you think it really works, or is it just a bit of a con? I mean, do you think that smelling tangerines really gets people very excited?
I think it triggers off something in the brain, and they say, well, yes, we can smell tangerines, and it does induce them to buy. This, you can actually see this happen in stores where we put the actual smell of the goods.
Now, what is this going to induce me to buy? Oh, gosh, I mean... Well, you try it, I do. I mean, I'm sure it's something familiar. It is, it's very pleasant, but I wish I knew what it was.
What does it...
Melon, very juicy melons. It smells like melons.
It does? Right,
Yeah.
let's see how...
Or it could be roast chicken, on the other hand.
It smells like melons to me.
You're correct, it is a melon. It's a fresh, juicy melon. Marvellous.
So how does a shopper react to a smell?
Shoppers react in a very positive way. If they smell, say, for example, chocolate, it conjures up in the mind perhaps a birthday, and it encourages them to buy.
Oh, it's chocolate.
Yes.
Oh, that is good. Actually.
Chocolate?
Yeah. It's funny, of all the scents, this is the one that it makes me immediately hungry.
Well, that is what we're trying to achieve. I think smell is very important to convince the customer that the goods are fresh. It's what they anticipate the end product is going to be like, because something that looks bland and wrapped doesn't really have the same impact. If you add the smell to it, it puts a whole new concept to it. It's interesting, in the old days, they used to put coffee beans behind the counter, and the girls used to walk up and down and crunch the coffee beans, and the smell came out. So we are reintroducing the smells of the past.
So they can get our juices flowing once we're inside the store, but how do they persuade us in the first place? Now, some people like being manipulated in such a sophisticated way. Other shoppers might resent it, but supermarket owners absolutely love the results. Next week, the supermarkets as menu masters. Will we ever cook again?
Hello, and welcome to the first in our new series of Artifacts. Each week we'll be taking you on a probing, behind-the-scenes tour into the world of design. From computer games to postboxes, and from food to smells, we'll be investigating it all.
We live in a world which relies heavily on sights and sound. Together, they affect our moods and emotions. But sight doesn't give the complete picture, and sound doesn't tell the whole story. So maybe we should look down our noses and listen to what they have to say.
We've discovered that through research that smell is as powerful an influence on our behaviour, in fact more powerful probably than anything else we can do to the environment. For instance, we know from Japanese research that the simple smell of citrus in the air will reduce things like typing errors by 54%. There's even research at this moment going on which shows that under certain, the influence of certain smells, people will gamble more. That's been tested in Las Vegas. The thing that smells do best, of course, is trigger off psychological associations. You may smell like the smell of roast chestnuts. That brings back the whole of Christmas. Imagine how important that can be for a designer. Somebody who's an interior designer, like Christian Fischbacher, for instance. Now here he's put together all these materials which evoke the feel of autumn. Imagine that we can add to that the actual smell of autumn, a sort of generic smell of autumn, and perhaps something very specific, like rose petals. The effect that that will have.
Right, well, that suits a design like this very much, something that's very autumnal. But if we took another design, looking like this, what smells would you use here?
Well, again, this is an outside sort of feel. We've got greens and a spring kind of lightness to it. So we could have a spring flavour or something which is very specific, like new mown grass, and that'll evoke the same kind of feelings as the materials are supposed to evoke.
So can you see this catching on? I mean, how long until smells are part of the shopping experience?
Well, it's a little early to say, but there should be something in the air this Christmas.
Well, I followed my nose to Tower World in Blackpool, but I can't hang around because I'm about to witness the birth of time. As the earth forms, you're greeted with the sulphurous stench of molten lava. Then, there's the heady Tyrannosaurus tar pit, which thankfully makes way for the sweet-smelling swamp area. A few thousand years on, and man discovers fire. But there's no smoke without smell. So who's behind these primeval pongs? Back in the swamp area, I met up with Fred Dale. Okay, Fred, I give up. Where exactly is the swamp smell coming from?
Right. These are the units very discreetly hidden in the settings that give off the smell that we are detecting now. Simply operated by electricity, the oil is placed in a metal beaker, and that vaporizes into the atmosphere.
Other than exhibits, who else asks you to create smells for them?
Ice cream doesn't have a smell, obviously, while it's refrigerated, but we, again, can put in the smell of the vanilla ice cream, for example, and the strawberry ice cream, which is very enticing when people walk past a shop. A contrast to that is the Fire Brigade, who now would like us to create the smell of burning to educate young children to recognise the smell of burning.
I don't think I really want to ask this one, but what's the worst smell you've ever created?
Well, there's one that perhaps is quite strong. I'd like you to sample that one and test your reaction. This is what I think a dragon's breath would smell like.
That's foul. The wind of change in the aromatics industry might leave some nasty smells in the air, but one thing's for certain. The nose is definitely up and running.
Oh, that dragon's breath. My nose feels numb just thinking about it. Now, were there any limitations that you found?
Yeah, there were. For example, coffee, which only gives off a smell when it's crushed because it's a chemical reaction. You cannot produce synthetically.
And what about future applications? Where might we see smells?
Well, at the moment, they're experimenting with putting smells on microwave foods and packaged products, as they themselves don't give off smells. So, for example, a can of beans doesn't smell, but you can put the smell on the can.
So we might be able to find it one day in the supermarket?
Hopefully so.
No harm in being nosy, is there?
In fact, about a man from St Anne's who makes his living by manufacturing lots of different odours. The fragrances are both foul and fair, so no one can say that his job stinks.
Lancashire businessman Frank Dale has spent most of his life selling deodorising equipment. Now he's making money by putting smells into bottles, or putting the bottle into smells.
Well, we've over 90 in the range, from the Viking era, right up to present day virtually. It's a matter of associating the smell with the visual.
Most of the smells Fred produces can be found in museums, like the smell of a sooty fire he created at the Lancaster Maritime Museum.
This is hidden discreetly in the setting. When it's switched on, the heater vaporizes the oil into the atmosphere, and that circulates and stays suspended in the air, so that when the general public enter the setting, as soon as they enter there, that smell greets them.
Fred's smells are also helping revive old memories of the elderly, some of them not so pleasant.
Apparently in every school there was always one child that had a smell, or that was nicknamed Smelly Jones or whatever. Again, the people will remember his name and even remember what he looked like, and it's quite strange what they can remember.
And you can actually produce that smell?
Yes, we can. It's not pleasant, but again, the unpleasant ones are the ones that we remember, and those are the smells that stay with us.
What does it remind you of?
Gin. Well, that's probably like the effects from last night.
Dentists.
Does it remind you of anything?
Disgusting. Sorry.
Santa Claus, can I ask you to smell this and tell me what it reminds you of?
Ooh, it's like coming down the chimney. All soot. Fred's smells indeed. And
Look at that.
Hello again. Well, we have got some great jobs lined up on What's My Line today, but before we actually ask our contestants to sign in, let's meet our 4 sleuths, starting with one of the funniest men I know, Roy Hudd. And a wonderful combination of brains and beauty, Gilly Johnson. Very talented lady. It's always a pleasure to have her on this programme. Gilly Cooper.
Whoa, get on, Gilly!
And an actor who's written his first novel, which just happens to be called Talking Oscars, Simon Williams. Even brought an Oscar along with him. Let's meet the first of our contestants now as we ask him to sign in, please. Thank you, Frederick. Come and make yourself comfortable. And I know that lots of you at home like to play this game, so if you'd like to close your eyes now, coming up on the screen is what Frederick Dale does for a living. Okay, it's off your screens. Fred comes from Lancashire. He is self-employed, and Roy, we start with you.
Hello, Fred. Hello. That mime you were doing, was it anything to do with chemistry?
Yes.
It looked like you were doing the old thing we used to do in science classes at school, like putting in a blue litmus paper job. Was it something like that? Something like that?
Something like that.
Something like that. So it's some sort of analysing you were doing, were you?
Not analysing.
Nah.
No, he wasn't analysing. Gilly Johnson.
Hello, Fred.
Hello.
Does your job involve chemicals?
Some of them, yes.
Would we use these? Would they be of any domestic use?
No.
No. Gilly Cooper. Ah. Hello, Fred. Do
Hello.
you provide a service?
A service loosely.
A loose service, lovely. Yes.
Nothing to do with a massage parlour at all, like
No. A service, yes.
But there is also an end product.
An end product, yes.
Yes, there is an end product. And this is to do with chemicals. I mean, chemicals are part of it.
A part of it, yes.
And the audience roared with laughter, so it must have and cheered, so it must have something slightly outlandish about it. Or different.
Unusual.
Unusual. Could I come to you and have your service? Would it help me?
I don't think it would help you, no.
No, I don't think help is quite the right word, Simon.
Hello, Fred. This is a grubby audience we've got here. And I suspect that there's something to do with where there's muck, there's brass involved with your life. Is there any particularly dirty part of is your work dirty in any way?
No.
Never mind.
No, Roy.
You actually make something then, do you, Fred?
Yes, we do.
Do you make it on your own?
That is a leading question.
No, I do it with others.
You do it with others?
So no, he does not make it on his own. Right, Gilly Johnson.
Well, if this is chemical and it's not household, I don't know what it is. Could I buy this in a high street shop?
No.
No, you couldn't.
No.
Gilly Cooper. I mean, terrific jokes, and also particularly jokes of doing it on his own and doing it with other people. And it wouldn't do me any good. Would it do something I own any good?
No.
It's not a lot of use what Fred makes, is it?
Simon
really?
Williams.
Would we come to you to buy this useless whatever it is?
Yes, you would.
We'll come directly to you.
Yes.
Would I regard it as a luxury?
It would be a necessity under certain circumstances, but not a luxury.
Not a luxury.
That's a no.
No, that's 7 gone. 8 gone, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Roy.
Okay, 8.
Yes.
Is it, do you, this thing that you make, is it for use in industry? Industrial? Would it be an industrial chemist sort of thing?
No, certainly not.
No, it's not. It's not household. Right.
It's not household.
Jilly Johnson, it's down to you.
Yes, it has to. Would I enjoy this?
It would be an experience.
Would Roy enjoy this?
It would equally be an experience for Roy.
And the same goes for Jilly.
Yes.
What about me?
Particularly you, perhaps.
Hello. Sounds a bit rude to me. Wait a minute, we've got one left.
You've got one left.
Well, it's something he makes with others, right? It is an end product. There's nothing to do with industry. It's not a luxury.
Simon Moore, it's supposed to be acting.
Acting.
Would it be cosmetic?
Steady on.
Oh, right.
Yes, clap, clap.
See, Simon always wears his street makeup all the time. You know?
Not cosmetic.
Not cosmetic. No, but that was quite an interesting shot in the dark, Jilly. Would you like to tell them, Frederick, what it is you do?
I create authentic smells for museums and theme parks.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
Have you? And he's brought one of his authentic smells. It was a couple of
Do
them,
we need
actually.
protection? Do we need protection?
No, you don't. Well, I hope not.
Now, this particular smell, ladies and gentlemen, he made for the Heinz Baked Bean Factory.
Now, what you have in here is what?
That is 18th century stables, horses, and is used in an 18th century street scene to create the atmosphere of that period.
So when you're walking through something like the Viking Museum in York, you would actually smell that wonderful kind of acrid, rubbishy smell, which is an old Viking. And if you were going through Madame Tussauds, you would smell this in the Chamber of Horrors.
You would.
And actually, he does some marvellous work also with the elderly, recreating smells from their past. Marvellous! Nice smells! Doesn't it sound terrible?
My granny was always known for her smells.
Doesn't that sound terrible? No, smells that evoke childhood and happy memories from their past, not what you were thinking, right. But congratulations, Frederick, you take away one of these. Thank you very much indeed for being on the programme. The thing is, you see, if I have any trouble with them, I just take off the lid and absolutely destroy them, right?
Does he do it on his own?
Well, why we still think about that? Let's ask our next contestant to sign in, please.